All right, so I got the recorder on, got the mic on, and we'll go ahead and talk about maps, which is a very cool feature if you are planning to do anything with the GPS or mapping in App Inventor. This is all kind of new stuff to me because when I was using App Inventor last time I taught this class, these features were not available. And once again, if you want to do all of these in Android Studio, it's not easy. It's going to take you a lot of time to understand. Even if you know how to do Java programming already, this will still take a bit of time. All right. So what we'll do today is to focus on a few things related to mapping. The first one is under maps. Okay, so the first bunch, I should say, are under maps. So we got circle, feature, collection, but none of these can exist on its own. So you need to have a map as a container first. So this is the map as a container. So what we'll do is we're going to read some documentation and just go to map and then click on more information. And this is the description of what a map component can do in App Inventor. Okay, so the first paragraph just says that this is a two-dimensional container, which is kind of the same as a canvas because a canvas is also a two-dimensional container. But this one renders map tiles in the background and allows for a multiple marker elements to identify points on the map. Map tiles are supplied by the OpenStreetMap contributors and the USGS. So it is not Google Maps. So we don't have to worry about copyright, issues related to Google Maps. So this is a map feature, but it is not Google Maps. The map component provides three utilities for manipulating its boundary with App Inventor. There's a locking mechanism that allows the map to be moved, but only relative to other components on the screen. Second, when unlocked, the user can pan the map to any location. At this new location, the Set Initial Boundary button can be pressed to save the current map coordinates to its properties. Lastly, if the map is moved to a different location, for example, to add markers off screen, then the Reset Map to Initial Bounds button can be used to recenter the map back to the starting location. So the map itself, the container itself, has all of these properties. It has a bounding box, which is a list. Now this is kind of interesting because this bounding box is not expressed in pixels. It is expressed in northwest as, let's see, which one is, this one is latitude, this one is longitude, I think, or the other way around, I cannot remember. But they're expressed as a list of sublists, and each sublist is consists of two coordinates, or two numbers. Center from, you'll set the center of the map from a particular string based on the latitude and longitude. So I'm guessing north is a latitude and west is a longitude. Enable pan, which allows you to pan the screen, and so on and so forth. So these are the properties. And then the other thing we also want to take a look at would be the events. So the events has to do with bounds changed. Runs when the user changes the map bounds, either by zooming, panning, or rotating the view. So that means the user, if you allow that to occur, people can actually pan around, and you get an event based on that, so that you can recalculate what points to display on the screen based on what you're doing with it. Double tap a point, it can basically recognize a location. So double tap at point does not give you the coordinate in pixels within the map. It gives you the actual latitude and longitude. So you can actually either look it up in Google Maps or do some other things with it. You can look up what is the closest feature that you want to display based on that point. Feature click, you can click on it and it returns a feature. It tells you what feature is being clicked on. Feature drag, it tells you what feature is being dragged. Long click, start drag, and so on and so forth. So it shares a lot of common elements with Canvas. You can kind of look at the feature like a sprite, except it's not, okay? Because everything within a map are not in two-dimensional pixel-based coordinate. It's based on longitude and latitude. So this is great if you want to do something that has to do with the location of whatever you want to track or whatever you want to display. So it has a lot of drag stuff, starting, ending, being dragged, during that time. God features. The God feature event runs after a call to load from URL. Successfully read feature description from URL. The feature parameter will be a list of features description that can be converted into components using feature from description method. So we'll get to that later. Invalid point, load error, and so on and so forth. Ready runs when the map is initialized and ready for use. So nowhere in here does it say, where am I right now? It doesn't say. Okay, so this is strictly a map. So GPS location or where you are located right now, is an entirely different component. This is for displaying stuff, not for finding where I am. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of methods related to it too. Okay, so our first task. Okay, let's go ahead and make a new app because I don't want to reuse the apps that we already have been using. So I'll call this map test 1, okay, because we might conduct several tests. So the first thing we do is we drag a map in. We go to maps right here, and then we specify a map. Now the map itself is a visible component, and as such it has its own height, width, and so on, just like everything else. So we'll specify that this will fill like 50% of the parent's height, so that we have some room for buttons and whatnot. And the width is going to be 100%, which basically fills up the entire width of the screen itself. Okay, like so. Map type, you can select one of these, and I believe they can be changed as we get into the map. So we can display roads, aerial, or terrain. So depending on what your app is really trying to do, you can select one or the other two. Okay. Huh? Aerial is a photograph, just a bird's eye view. It's kind of like a satellite picture. Terrain is contour. So what you would. It is probably drawn. Yeah. Yeah. So if you turn on terrain in Sacramento, it's not going to be very interesting. Because Sacramento is pretty flat. But if you turn on aerial, it will show you the campus, okay? And if you turn on just roads, it will just give you the roads. This is not that's not Sacramento, because the initial location is MIT. Where? Oh, okay, I see. So you can also control the zoom level or the initial zoom level, but that can change. It can be changed programmatically, which means your code has ability to control the zoom level, but the end user can change that too by using the pinch gesture. You can show zoom. You can show scale. So show zoom is really just showing what is the current magnification. And then show scale is going to show you, how much distance on the map is, whatever, a mile, 100 meter, 100 yards, or whatever. And you can also show compass. Okay, so we're going to just do this much. Okay, location sensor, is we don't have a location sensor, included in the app, so that's why we cannot select anything. If you do want to. A location sensor is something that allows you to find out where you are at this point. So it's basically GPS. And let's see, where is it? Location sensor. Location sensor itself is a non-visible component, so that's why it's only shown here. But you can utilize it back in the map. So when we go back to the map, we can go back to location sensor, and now we can pick location sensor 1, so that the map is now correlated with the location sensor. So it's not going to be at a particular location only. You can also change its original or the first, when they first display, you can change the center from string. This is the coordinate of MIT, and we can find the one for ARC pretty easily. Do you guys know how to do that? No? Okay. So you can go to maps.google.com and then locate where you are. Okay, so we are at ARC right now. We're to the north of Marconi. Yep, there we go. And just a little bit more to the north right here. So we're at ARC, zoom in, and we are in the CMC. Okay, move a little bit, which is actually what we call parking lot B. We took up basically the most of parking lot B. And the satellite picture may actually be updated enough that we can see the CMC building. Nope, not quite. Okay, that's fine. So we'll just right click, click on a certain location, and this is the coordinate right there. This is the coordinate of ARC. So we are closer to the equator than MIT, and we are more to the west. Okay. So we just do a right click and see if we can get the location, or just click on it. There we go. So we click on this, and let's see. I'm just trying to copy and paste the location. Here, yep, okay, gotcha. So we copy this whole thing and go back to App Inventor, and then we just update this using the number that we just got. There we go. So when we specify longitude and latitude, it is really just a number. It's not in degrees, seconds, minutes, all those other units, which are user-friendly but not so friendly when you need to type it in as a number. Okay. All right, so we'll just do this much, and give it a try first and see what happens. So we're going to build the app, and using a command line, I'm going to, okay, we can stop that. So we can now go to screen copy. So you can see the, that's not like that. Oh, okay, no wonder. I forgot to turn on this. That's okay, we can download the APK file first, and then go back to here. We'll need 2 tabs, one to rerun this. Nope, not yet. Have you guys watched, do you follow news on cell phones? Like the Samsung S10 is going to be 5G capable. So that's really kind of cool. All right. So we got the screen running, and now we just have to go to Android SDK platform tools, and then run. Oh, it just crapped out. That's okay, we'll get back. Okay. There we go. So we have map test 1, and well, it's successful. So it's displaying ARC. This is the ARC campus, and I can zoom in. I can rotate. Oh, maybe not. I may not have enabled that, and I can certainly pan as well. So it's kind of cool. All right, click OK. and then we can also use the zoom buttons. So when we control that icon here, enable, not enable zoom, when we click on this box, show zoom, it's really just a button, which is not really useful in a mobile app because you can use the pinch, finger pinch gesture to control the zoom. So it's not really particularly useful in that case. So we can turn it off. So we can turn off, show zoom, okay, because it's not really particularly useful. And I did not turn on enable rotation, so that's why my my finger gesture of rotating didn't work, because I did not enable that. So are we good so far with how to use the basic feature of a map? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go back to the blocks, and we want to find out what we can do not only with a map but also with a location sensor. So as you might know, okay, as you might suspect, a location sensor can detect a change of location. Look at the first block here. So the first block says when location sensor 1, location changed, it will report back the new latitude, the new longitude, the new altitude if that is needed, and also the speed. Okay, how fast did I get to this new location? So what we can do now is to correlate this with the map. So this map can recenter, based on my movement. Okay, which is probably something that you want to do if you want to do a like a nature hike trail, tracking thing or whatever. You want to center the person, based on the location. So we'll go ahead and pick this up and say, go to the map 1. Okay. And map 1 has a lot of, stuff going on here, a lot of events. But all I need is really just to change the current location. I might have just missed it. This is how we get back the user longitude and latitude, but I want to change that. So it has to be a set block. Maybe it's a call to do it. Pan to. Okay, maybe that is what we want. Okay. Pan the map center to the given latitude and longitude and adjust the zoom level to the specified zoom. Okay. So that sounds like what we need. And where did I put the other block? I didn't grab it. Okay. There we go. All right. So we plug these two together. You can hear that click, right? Yeah. That's what you get when you have your speaker turned on. Okay, so let's say I want to maintain the current zoom level. That can be done because I can go to map 1 and get its current zoom, which should be all the way down to the bottom, and just get zoom level and plug it here. So now we have a map that is interactive slightly based on where I am, my current location. So let's go ahead and give that a try. Oh, the other thing that I might want to do is just to, display something on the screen so that I can actually see that this is getting updated. So I'm going to go to Designer and just use a text box to reflect the current coordinate. So this way I can actually see it. So I grab a text box and just stash it here. It's just for debugging purposes. It's not really a part of the app, but it makes it easy for me to see, how my current location has changed. So we go to text box 1 and set the text of text box 1 to the coordinate. So we need to go to string, get a join, because we have to put in three components. There are three components to kind of concatenate into one string. Okay. The first one is really just the latitude. So we grab the latitude. The last one is the longitude. And then the middle one is just a comma to separate the two numbers, because otherwise it gets pretty difficult to read. So we can use this method. Nope, it doesn't like it. All right.
So if you want to know what the actual address is.
The location sensor can return that.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead.
What would allow it to relate in an address format versus along with that?
That is a good question. I think that is a function of the location sensor.
Okay.
You know, the correspondence between your GPS location and the street address is a function of the location sensor, not of the map.
Okay.
Yeah, but at this point we should have the ability to update the location of the map based on, you know, my movement. Now obviously I'm just going to be moving within the classroom, so it may not show much, but the number would change because the number is high precision, so you can actually see a change of the number. Okay, so we'll go ahead and build the APK again. You can kind of think about, you know, making, unfortunately, App Inventor does not support augmented reality, because if it did, you can combine augmented reality, map, and your location to basically really have a electronic version of Easter egg hunt. Because GPS can get you down to a kind of like a proximity, you know, location, and then you have to switch to augmented reality to really kind of pinpoint the location of the Easter egg. All right, so we go back to here. Okay, the screen is still running. I have no idea why sometimes it crashes out and other times it does not. All right, so we are waiting for the location. This time I can rotate it like that. Oh, okay. There we go. So this time we can actually rotate it like that. And, this would not work very well, would it? Because, you know, if I move, because it's tied into the location of the phone itself.
Take a screenshot, then move back, take a screenshot.
Yeah, we could do that. I also have to make sure that the location sensor is turned on the phone itself. And it is. Okay. We're talking about that. Oh, you guys cannot see it because. There we go. Okay. So we're talking about this thing here. So if you have it turned off in the settings of the phone, then obviously nothing is going to happen. Okay. And it's still not getting anything. I'm going to go back to the blocks or the designer to make sure that the location sensor is, it is enabled, but the time interval is a little bit high. It is set to 60 seconds basically. And then the distance interval is set to 0. So we can, yeah, yep, yep. Okay. Well, let's change that to every second. And I think distance interval has to do with when it would report back as a location change. So instead of guessing it, we can just go ahead and find it. So we go to sensors, go to location sensor. Huh? Current address. Yeah, so, but I want to look at distance interval. Determine the minimum distance interval in meters that the sensor will try to use for sending out location updates. So the question is, what does it mean when it is set to 0? So it doesn't say anything about what it means when distance interval is set to 0. Distance interval. Okay, this is the only place that has something to do with it. So, okay, we'll go ahead and change that. So we'll change this to only 1 meter. And because the app has not updated, I'm not showing you the screen, but it has not been updated. So we'll go back, rebuild the app. But it is the location sensor that can report back your street address, which is likely to report back unnamed street in this case, because we are on the road, but it's not, it has no name on it, which is really confusing when you want to order Lyft. It will say, where do you want to go? Unnamed street. Then you have no idea which unnamed street we're talking about, right? Yeah, I wish they could do that. And Lyft doesn't seem to have the ability to bookmark locations. It relies on bookmarks already in Google Maps, but it doesn't keep track of its own, bookmark locations, which is really it's not really necessary as a feature, but it would be very nice to have that. Because there are certain destinations that I'm particularly frequently used, and I just want those 3 or 4 locations to show up all easily. Okay, so this is now set to every second, but okay, so I'm gonna have to. Oh, you can see how the compass changes based on my heading. Look at the compass. So that is kind of cool. Okay, it shows me my heading. So I'm gonna have to disconnect it for now, just so that I can move around and see if the GPS location changes. And so far it has not changed. That event has not occurred yet. Okay, now I can zoom in. And nothing. Oh, no, it just changed a little bit. But the text box does not have any new value. Okay, let me do some more walking. I thought it changed a little bit, but that could just be me. The compass is moving, so definitely it is tracking my heading, but my location is not getting changed. All right, so something is not working here. Okay, so let's plug back in. And okay, so location sensor is not triggering this block to execute. This block does not get executed at all. So location change is not working. Let's see. Let's go back to designer. And this is location sensor. We changed all of these settings already. So why is it still not working? All right, so time to read some more documentation. This is a bad habit of mine. I try to skip reading documentation until something does not work. Then I go back and read it. Okay, non-visible component providing location information, including longitude, latitude, altitude, speed, and address. This is also performs geocoding, converting given address to a latitude and a longitude, blah, blah, blah. In order to function this function, this component must have enabled property set to true, which it is, and the device must have location sensing enabled through wireless network or GPS satellites, if outdoors. Location information may not be immediately available when an app starts. You will have to wait a short time, unspecified short time, for a location provider to be found and used, or wait for the on location changed event. Okay, that's basically what we are waiting, and it still has not changed. So, all right, so I moved quite a bit inside.
Came back.
Yeah.
So it's not going to show you that you were over there.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you guys, how to, the settings and see if something about the settings might be the issue. All right, so I'm just going to look for, I remember now, I forgot to change my keyboard back to English because I really don't know how to enter Chinese. Okay, so at least it's got that language. I'm going to turn that off for now. Okay, so that should be better. Okay, back. There we go. All right, so we want to look for GPS, okay, and there's nothing. Okay, location then. There we go. All right, so location is on. Locating method is in high accuracy mode. Okay, use the GPS to estimate your location. Okay, so we'll pick this one because it might be waiting for cell phone, signal for triangulation. So we'll just use say device only. Wi-Fi scanning, Bluetooth scanning, they're both on. So we should be good here. But we can also see recent location request is only coming from Google Play service and S-Voice. So the app has not been making that request, which is kind of odd because when we install the app, it should have asked something, or when we run the app, it should have asked something. Okay, so let's go back to map test 1, and we'll exit the app 2 and then restart it. And give it some time while we do something else. This is me doing it. Okay. Still nothing. So somehow I'm suspecting, it doesn't work on this particular device. I don't know whether it is because it has no SIM card in it. So it has Wi-Fi, it has GPS location. According to this, it has cell phone signal too. Except I don't have a phone number, but the triangulation still should work. Even though I don't have a SIM card in it. But it's not updating, unfortunately. Oh, wow. Okay. So let's just say that feature is not working, at least not for now. I think I did everything already to try to get it to work, but it's definitely not working. All right. So, but that's okay. Even if that feature is not working, I can still talk about other things that you can put in a map. So you can put circles in a map, you can put a polygon into a map, you can put a rectangle into a map. So when you put those things in a map, they're called features, and you can move them around. So that means if I put a rectangle, for instance, in a map, I can move the rectangle around, and you can query the rectangle back and say, where are the two corners of that rectangle? So you can actually do something, and say, okay, is this location within that rectangle or not? Okay. And because the GPS is not working, I can't show you how to convert your current location into a street address and the other way around, which obviously can be a useful feature, but it's not working. I'm going to do one more thing.
Your own maps?
Huh?
I didn't see any place. Can you put your own maps?
What do you mean by your own maps?
Can I draw a map and then use my own map, but put the current GPS on there somehow? You know what I mean? Like reskin the map. Let's say I wanted to build a Dungeons and Dragons or something.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Oh, I see.
Overlaid over like Sacramento becomes I don't know what 24s.
You, well, it allows you to draw any one of these items over the map as a background.
But not
So,
the map itself.
but not the map itself. So if you draw something like this, it's going to overlap and hide what is actually behind it. You see what I mean? Okay, give you an example.
Like you're saying, drawing a circle over the science office.
Yeah, so you can basically drag a circle over and see how the circle is opaque.
Even yeah, but that's like I feel like you can download video game maps, for example.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, and that would change. I mean, it's more than just adding a circle. Can you just change the map itself, where it's only OpenStreetMap? You know what I mean? Like, so
Where it's
not-
open where it doesn't display the other features.
Never mind. I'll just take it as a no.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're. Okay, so let's go back to the blocks. I think I might understand what you're talking about. Okay, so let's go back to the blocks and look at what a map can and cannot do. So we are not looking into the event stuff,
No. Yeah.
and what we are doing is
Load from URL. There you go.
okay. Okay, so load from URL says load a feature collection from this particular place in the format of a GeoJSON. On success, the event got features will be raised and a given URL and a list of features parsed from that will be returned on failure blah 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 blah. So it's really just returning a GeoJSON object that you can parse, and it has a list of features. So now the question is what features are we talking about? Okay, well let's look it up.
Can we see what else there is besides that?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so it has a load from URL, which is what we just looked at. Pan to a certain location, which is what I enabled, but it didn't work because the GPS part is not working. You can save a path. So save the content of the map to the specified path. The path in this case is a file path. It's just saving to a file, and you specify where you want to save the file to. And the rest are all just attributes. So you can set a bounding box.
That's okay. And we don't need to. I don't think you can do it.
Well, we'll just take a quick look here.
Another thing that doesn't have
I think you might be looking at features.
is
So
you can't. I don't see a function or whatever to share your location.
that's at a different place. Sharing is done by different component. So, but here, because what you want to do is to look into what a feature is. This includes any features created by calls to feature from description. In other words, it's dynamic. You can actually generate more features. So it's not based on how many components you have dragged from the palette. So this may be something that you want to look at, would be the features. And that also correlates to load from URL, because load from URL will give you a list of features. So that would be something that you might want to look into. Other things, would be just location sensors and map type. It allows you to set to road, aerial, or terrain. Scale, show compass, So I don't think the rest of the features, is what you want, but you might want to look at the GeoJSON and look at what kind of feature it can embed into that. So you would be looking at GeoJSON and look up Wikipedia. It's an open standard format for representing simple geographical features. So the question is, what kind of features, right? So we'll take a look at an example. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So it has a type, what is a feature, So in this case, the feature is the geometry is a point, and the coordinate is this, and has certain properties associated with it. You can also have lines, which map can do. Okay. Let's see, what other features do we have? Polygon, which map can do. And then we have, this is not a feature. So the feature types, yeah, so you can have point, which line type, polygon, and all of these map can handle. So I think what you need to do is to design your own Dungeon and Master map using polygons, circles, line strings, and whatnot, and then store it into a JSON file. And when you load it,
Call them as features.
yeah, that would be kind of cool.
I'm not gonna do it. I was more just curious if it could be done. That's a lot of work.
That would be really cool. And then you hook up the accelerometer, you sense that. So when you're supposed to be fighting with a sword, you basically go through the swinging motion of a sword. It can measure, like your G-forces, how hard you're swinging it. And then that will determine the actual attack power, right? Or if you're throwing a spear, it will, kind of, measure the velocity.
The weapon and then do it, and then you can set a random number generator, and then that would be like your die rolling, and it would display 10 damage, or it would say, it will talk it.
Yeah.
So that the dungeon master doesn't have to read dice anymore, since it all goes over there.
Okay. So I'm getting a little obsessed of this, location not working kind of thing. So what I'll do is I'm going to do one thing to test it, right? Because I'm going to go to Google Maps itself and see if Google Maps has my current location. Because if my current location is not even showing up in, yep, it does have it. Okay. And we can also even check, how sensitive it is, right? Ah, it moved a little bit, I think. Okay. This is as far zoomed in as I can possibly get.
I mean, it's not, I think it's that sensitive, like taking 2 steps should appear on your phone.
Well, it's supposed to have some kind of error too, see how it's, kind of moving on its own. I haven't moved. Because GPS sensing has an inherent error, and that the military put that in. So even if you stay stationary, your GPS location would actually change all the time. So now that this is working, see how the on the notification bar, the GPS thingy is now on, but it wasn't on earlier. So now. They cannot track you?
Yeah. Oh, they're right there.
Yeah, well, see, right here, it doesn't show it. So that tells me something is not right about the configuration. The app is not requesting the device, or it's not requesting the location. So I'm going to do it one more time. And just look for location. There we go. See how Maps is now on the list of recent location requests, but my app never showed up on that list. So that's an issue, right? Okay. So let's find out that. Find app inventor, location sensor, not working. Yep, seems to be a problem for different people. Okay.
Oh, look, someone else said the same thing.
Yep. Okay, something you do not get inside buildings, but Maps was able to do it, so we know it's not that issue.
The white just left 1 minute.
Yeah.
A lot of people responding to that.
Don't be defensive.
Oh, funny.
You should not use the GPS before it has a fix. Otherwise, it seems that it's not there. Okay. I'm not being defensive. Okay. Since Google Maps work, I should assume the location sensor is working. Well, we know that the sensor itself, the hardware device, is working. But whether the software has access to it is a different story. And that's okay. Did you load the same APK in one of the 22 and again on backsheep and test? That doesn't give us a solution at all. Well, the other thing I can do is to try it on my phone and see if that works. Okay, all right, so we'll try it on my own phone, which has a SIM card, but it takes a different cable. I don't know whether I have, yep, I do, okay. So when most people use a programming tool, they assume the programming tool is, for the most part, working, right? I'm pretty used to not making that assumption. Part of the reason is because, before I started teaching here, I was doing software development, and part of the development thing that I did was maintaining a compiler and all the libraries that go along with the compiler. And so I'm pretty used to things basically not working because the tool itself is not working. All right. So here's my screen. Install the app. Okay. And this is alphabetical order now. So it's going to be map test 1. There we go. And I don't see the location icon showing up in the notification bar. And I can even turn on Wi-Fi. Don't think it's going to help. All right, so I'm just going to let it sit here, because I want to isolate, is it a device issue or is it a, is it something else? Usually when you install an app that would ask for your GPS location, it would basically prompt you and say, do you want to allow your app to get your location? And I did not see it in either case.
So does that mean that the app itself is just not asking for that location?
That's what I'm thinking. That has to do with the manifest file of an APK. So APK is nothing more than a zip file. So it unzips into a lot of components. So within one of those files, is a description of what the app needs, of what permission it needs. And when you install the app, the installer would go through that and go like, oh, okay, I see you're requesting something, and it will show up. And in this case, it does not seem to be asking for the GPS location. So that may be one thing that that is actually not working. I'm not going to spend too much time to work on that, just so that we can continue with the class. But on my spare time, I'm going to look into it. It's like, okay, I have to get this to work. This is too important to just kind of let go and okay, let's just leave it alone and not have it work. Okay, so getting back to a circle. So with a circle, you have the longitude and your latitude properties, and that would describe the center. And then you have a radius. The radius appears to be in either meters or yards. Okay, if you read the documentation, it will tell you which one is in. So by using these features, let me scroll a little bit to the other side. So by using the markers, the line string, circle, and also rectangles and also polygons, you can now overlay your stuff over a map, and they're location-wise locked to actual map locations. So what you're suggesting of playing a D&D using actual locations is actually possible. Once we get this fixed, so that your app can actually get your current location. But until we can get it done, you can basically just click on the map and say, okay, I'm here, pretending that I'm here. What am I going to see? What kind of stuff can I interact with, and that sort of thing.
And just out of curiosity, let's say you use a polygon and make like a dungeon. Anything inside this polygon is part of the dungeon.
Okay.
Could you specify a point as the entry point as well? Like you have to go first to this point in order to get inside this polygon?
You can use a line to mark the entry to the dungeon. So in addition to a polygon, to actually have the shape of the dungeon, you can use a line string, basically just a line segment, to describe this is the entry to the dungeon. But there's no way to enforce somebody has to go through that. So to get that part done, you will have to kind of track a user's location and make sure that the update from outside the dungeon to inside the dungeon is crossing that line and not any other parts of the dungeon.
So you could pretty much set it up. Okay, first you have to get to this line string, and then once you've touched it, in essence, you can then cause one of the blocks to go, oh, now show this polygon.
Right. So that brings up a good question, which is, if you put a line string into a map like that, okay, what can you do with a line string? Okay, because what you want to do is to have the line string to trigger an event and say, oh, the current location is on this line string, right, close to. So we want to look up what a line string can do. You can click, drag, long drag, start, drag, and drag, but not anything else. So you would still have to. Okay, so let's check this out. Distance to feature, map feature, sand toys. Okay, this might help you. Assuming we have GPS working and we know the current location of the user, and that is a feature, or use one feature to track the current location of the user. So now you can compute the distance in meters between the two map features. So between you and the feature of the other one. So that can at least give you an idea of, is somebody really close to the entrance of the dungeon, and we'll call it, I guess we can call this good. Yep. Yeah, but the biggest problem that we have right now is it's not getting the GPS location. And I think it has to do with the manifest of the APK. Does anyone want to know what I'm talking about? What is inside an APK? Okay, so let's take a look at that. Because the inner working of an APK, or how Android apps work, is kind of interesting, especially if you plan to do real Android programming. So we'll make a new folder called map test 1, okay, and then I'm going to unzip the APK over here. So this means you can do the same thing in Windows too, except in Windows you have to rename APK to ZIP first, because Windows is extension description sensitive. So if you have a file that has the APK extension, Windows will not know what to do other than saying that, oh, this is an Android file. Where's your Android device to install it on? So you have to rename it to zip first. But Linux doesn't care, so we can do this. So right here we have a Android manifest XML file, Unfortunately, it is binary coded, so I have to get an XML binary decoder to read it. XML binary decoder Debian. It's probably just a package I have to install. Looks like it's just a base 64. Okay. Nope, that's not, definitely not the XML file. Okay, AXML. Okay. XML copy editor. All right. I'll do this later. I'll find a way to look into the XML file. But the Android manifest.xml file contains the information of what resources the app needs. So it would actually ask the end user and say, okay, would you grant this app access to the camera or the microphone or stuff like that. The GPS definitely should be one of those. But we didn't see it happening, so we kind of, I suspect that the app never really asked for the GPS location. Okay, so that would be a slight problem, causing the program not to work. All right. So do we have any other questions about any of the features that we have talked about? No questions? Okay, I have a question. Let's see whether a circle can have transparency. So it has a stroke color and also a fill color, but it doesn't have transparency, so we can't really just make it like half transparent to show what is behind it. So that's kind of problematic. And you can also turn on whether it's draggable or not. So if you turn it on to be draggable, then you can drag the circle itself, on the map without panning the map.
And that would cause the stroke color, I'm assuming?
Yep. So that would cause those events to happen. The drag-related events will happen. So it has a lot of really cool features. They're all very useful, except if you cannot get your current location, most of those features are not exactly going to be helpful at all. So we have that little issue of not getting the location sensor itself to work. And I mean, all of these settings should be good. We are reporting if I moved only by 1 meter, it's supposed to tell me that I have moved, and every second it's supposed to give me an update too, and it's not doing any one of those things. So that is very unfortunate. All right. So yep. Yeah, Pokemon Go uses Google Maps. Yeah. So it's really interesting because if you reconfigure your Google Maps to do certain things, it would actually impact Pokemon Go. But Pokemon Go does use the Google Maps API. So whatever is in Google Maps, the streets, how everything is displayed, they just get a local copy of that and use that to render what you see in Pokemon Go.
Do you have to get permission
to install Pokemon Go?
From Google, if you're going to include Google Map in your app? Did I say that?
No, you do not. Now, to use Google Maps, you do not, but to get your current location, you do.
But if you're using it in your app, to use Google Map.
To use Google Maps
within your app.
Within your own app?
Yes.
There's no way to do it because this map is not using Google Maps.
Okay.
So if you want to use Google Maps within your app, you will need probably a web viewer component,
Okay.
and then use the web viewer component to map to like a Google Maps URL. Then you can indirectly use Google Maps, but then it becomes basically just a web component inside your app. So you can probably do it that way. Yeah. So with this one, until I find out why the current location is not updating, I mean, it's really cool that you can draw your own maps and pan and zoom, and you can have your Dungeon and Dragon world like overlay on top of Sacramento. But until you can have people to report their current locations very accurately, you can't really do much with it. So that's kind of the killer of this particular feature is the location sensor does not seem to be working. When I tried this years ago, it was working. I was able to actually know where I am, and it gets updated. It reports back the street address and so on and so forth. But apparently that feature is now broken. So I'll try one more thing, just to kind of rule out possibilities. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking out the map itself. I'm taking out the map entirely, and make sure that there's no interaction between the map and the location sensor. And then we go back to location sensor, make sure everything is on, and then we go to the map. We still have this one here, which is okay. And then we look at location map again. Indicates the status of the location provider service has changed, such as when the provider is lost or a new provider starts being used. So we'll capture that event too. And when that happens, I'm going to report back, what it is saying. So we'll go to the text property again and have another join. Except this time I don't have get latitude, we have provider, and then we have status here. So I'm just trying to debug the thing at this point and find out why it is not working. So I'm gradually removing components to rule out any possibility of the map somehow interacting with location sensor, causing it not to work. But not having that thing prompt up and go like, are you going to allow this app access to your location? That bothers me because it really should have happened. So I don't think it's a device issue at all, because even with this test phone, I was able to use Google Maps. Okay, so that proves that the sensor itself is working just fine. Oh, I need to change this back to Android SDK platform tools. And then the other one, display the screen. And then this one to reinstall. Oops. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so the fact that it does not show up here, really is kind of strange. All right, so now we can rerun this. Ah, see? Okay, so now we should expect something to happen with the text box. It is now available. Yep, we got it working. So I'm guessing, we have to get the GPS location to work first before we do anything with maps.
Could just be that one block though. That status block.
Which block?
The block that you just added. Could it have been that one?
That's a good question. Right. You mean this block here?
Yeah, so maybe if you put map back in, but this one is the one that checked the status. So maybe that's the one that
Yeah, it's only reporting the status, right? Well, we can put map back here and go to blocks. So I'm not even going to bother to do anything other than having the map to update its own location. So it will be inside location changed. Just like last time, right? Because that's what we had last time, and we just did not have a location.
Aren't you saying do the same thing but under status change? Is that what you're asking?
No, because status change does not give you the location. Status change only tells you where's the new location, right?
It's giving a latitude longitude.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
But last time
Is
it
that
did
what you
not.
were asking to put the same thing?
Well, no, what I was asking was maybe you mean that when the location sensitive, there's stuff.
But remember, this time when we ran the app, it asked us, and last time it did not.
But don't
So,
trash it.
hmm?
Don't
Oh, you
trash
have
it.
to just leave it there.
Oh, I thought you were going to try to trash it.
No. Okay, so I want to know what the zoom to. Zoom level to a specified zoom. So I think I can use the current zoom level to specify that. So basically I'm just saying do not change the zoom level. Okay. All right, let's do that again. This is the sort of thing that an emulator would not be able to do, because with an emulator, it doesn't really have a GPS. You can give it, with certain simulators, you can connect it to an input to simulate, a GPS location. All right, so save it again, and then we'll reinstall. Done. Okay, run it again. And this time it works. Okay. So we have to capture that event. So somehow including including that block, enables the GPS to work. So I think when App Inventor generates the code, I think the inclusion of this block puts something into the manifest file to basically say, yep, we are using the GPS, whereas the other one does not trigger that. So now we can now continue with your your actual real world D&D game. I think it can take off. I really see that there's a chance that it can take off, especially when people purchase like merchandise like a cordless Bluetooth sword that has like a accelerometer sensor on it. I really. Well, I wouldn't put your phone next to it. If you do that, you probably need to have a strap, attached to your phone, just like the Nintendo Wii controller, and then have a big, huge warning and say we are not liable to any damage or injury as a result of this. Yeah, but I can totally see how that can happen. Yep. So you just kind of walk around the campus. Yep. Because if Pokemon Go can take off like it is, Dungeon and Dragon is way more than Pokemon Go. If you look at the number of people who are on Pokemon Go and look at the people who want to play D&D, there's no comparison. Pokemon Go is down there. It's just the noise, right? Yeah. Yep. And especially when you have high tech stuff, this is what you do. You make 3D modeling files and make those available online so that people can actually 3D print, modify and 3D print whatever sword or axe they want to use, and then you sell cosplay items like helmets, armor and whatnot. Of course, they're all just fake, right? I mean,
you should just make like embedded chip like weapons that are just for games.
Mm-hmm.
Actually make a sword with a chip in it. You can make more money that way. Then
You
buy
can.
every sword. I gotta go buy a dagger. I gotta go buy a bow and arrow.
You can already. Okay, so just as a business idea now, okay? Just as a business idea. You can get an Arduino Nano, or go to.
That cheap?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call that a cheap. This one is kind of cheap, right? This is kind of cheap because if you're, I used to be in the electronics, design type of industry. The connector itself, if you buy the connector, like the USB connector, by itself, sometimes that's like $1 already. And then the PCB is another, $1 at least. Let's see. This is a USB Nano 3, 80 328. Okay, so it's not Arduino, but it has the 80 328P, which is the same processor as an Arduino on it. So instead of using Arduino to program it, you can use GCC AVR, which is a cross compiler you can run in Windows or Linux to program it in C or C++. And what else?
Where does this go in your computer?
This is an embedded computer, so it's a very small, in terms of dimension. So if you look at, let me see if they actually have the measurement. No, but I can count. Okay, you can count. This is 0.1 of an inch, so the whole thing is maybe 2 inches by half an inch. So it's two inches by by half an inch, and you can power this up using just like one AA battery. And then you hook it up to a Bluetooth module. Then you have a Bluetooth enabled thing. It probably doesn't have any accelerometer on it, so you probably need to hook it up to a chip, and talk it through a serial protocol. That's pretty easy to do. Hook up a chip and make it so that it's aware of acceleration, deceleration. And then you put that whole thing into the handle or the tip, of a plastic sword. So now when you swing that sword, it can transmit that data back to your phone using Bluetooth.
Saying, wait, doesn't that mean, saying, when you say make it aware of movement, doesn't it have to have a gyroscope or whatever?
Accelerometer, it's a chip. It's just a chip. Let's find out what's in it. There's a separate chip for that.
Okay, so you need 2 chips, essentially, or find a chip that has both on there.
you, okay, so you can look at,
Right? Or,
Get into it, you can build one with the chip in it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
yep, so you can buy another, chip, another circuit board that only has the accelerometer on it. And then the Bluetooth, a Bluetooth adapter board to hook up to the Arduino, so you can use serial communication to talk back to the PC, and then you can just invent your own protocol in that case. Okay, you can just have this thing to kind of continuously spew back what it's reading in terms of acceleration, deceleration, or you can program the chip itself to do more processing. Like it would just kind of do the integration of acceleration and whatnot. But I think there's a possibility. The first one is not going to be cheap because you'll be buying these things, kind of on their own. So $5 for this, $2 for that, and then another $10 for the Bluetooth, module. So that's like $20. Okay, you're not going to make any profit, if you spend $20 on components. But then, once you get the concept working, then you can integrate and have one single board to have all of these components on it. I'm not sure whether it's patentable because,
Well, I'm saying you have to come up with something you can't.
well,
Software.
okay, so either you patent it or you just, make it public domain knowledge. So you just share the idea using Facebook, so it's no longer, a hidden idea. So in other words, by doing this, you're making sure that no one can patent it anymore, including you. Now, is that actually a dumb thing to do because you have just kind of cut off yourself from the possibility?
That means I have to open a Facebook account.
You just have to make sure it is available somewhere in the public domain, right? So you can post it in a Google group, okay? For people who play D&D and say, I have this great idea.
What if you posted it on MySpace and they lost all your data? They lost everything from
They-
2005 to 2012, like everything.
Oh my God.
Like most people care.
Like if I posted my idea, now
Yeah.
it's patentable.
So I can also tell you why it is actually a smart move, to post something like this and make it public domain. Let's say you patent it, okay? You have to spend thousands of dollars, even if you do it yourself, to get a patent. It's going to take you like a year or two before you actually get the patent granted. So it'll be patent pending all the time until that 2 years has expired. You have to correspond to the PTO, the Patent and Trademark Office, which is really a big pain in the ass because they don't really understand these concepts, right? So they just find something else that sounds like similar to this one and go like, no, I'm not granting you the patent because your idea and that idea seems to be the same. But in reality, it has nothing to do with it, right? So now you have to explain to the PTO officer and go like, no, wait, that idea is about blah, 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 my idea is about blah, 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 and, they're not really the same thing. So you have to go through a few rounds like that. That's going to take you time, okay? So 2 years later, you finally get your patent granted, right? And then here's Niantic, the maker of Pokemon Go, approaching you, go like, hey, I really like that great idea of yours. And then they will try to kind of lowball you and say, I'll pay you $2 million and get that patent, and have you license that patent to us so that we can use that, right? And you go like, $2 million? Are you kidding me? This is worth a lot more than that. But Niantic, being a much larger organization than you are, okay, will just go ahead and decide to use it anyway. They will just read your patent application and just put it into their design. So you can sue them, okay? You can sue them, but how much lawyer fee can you afford?
Don't forget
Right.
the international patent.
Yeah.
Just because you patent in the USA doesn't prevent another country from someone there taking your idea because you're not protected.
Like a certain country with a lot of population, right?
Yes. Wow. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
India.
Yep. So the other company can just use it and say, well, go ahead and sue us. Because hiring a lawyer to file a patent infringement lawsuit is not cheap. Patent lawyers, this is back in the 90s, okay, the late 90s.
Shows we used to see like, patent your idea now. They have the drawing of a caveman in a wheel.
Like you said, it takes 5
Yeah, the whole concept of patenting something was to protect the little people. Is really not the case anymore. Yeah, patents have become a weapon that big companies use against each other. You know, between Oracle and Google, we're talking about giants. We're not talking about like a 20, 50 people company.